Yeah, I can hear you, Dale. How you going?
Dreamy, dreamy. How are you going, Solana?
I'm very, very good. Very good. We got one guest so far.
Oh, wait!
I
Welcome.
hope he's Australian, but yeah, I,
Yeah,
like I don't know. I thought about it from Australia's perspective. Like, yeah, we've pretty much reached all time high. So I think we should do some talking somehow.
that was a great idea, man. No, top-notch idea because yeah, we've endured some pain over the last few years, and I think we deserve it.
Yeah, I sort of did want to just let my hair down because yeah, we've certainly been grinding for a good couple of years now.
My God, man. What's been happening in the world of Swala? Just while we're at it, eh? You've been a fairly quiet fella.
Have I? I don't know. I've been talking, but I mean, I don't know. I haven't really been talking all that much Bitcoin because I don't know. It kind of just does its thing. It just goes one block at a time, I guess. So,
There we
but
go, man.
you're aware that I had a kid about 3 months ago.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah.
bro.
So I've been
Yeah.
pretty busy trying to do all nappies and staying up in the middle of the night. So yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Welcome, Badger, the Honey Badger, and the Buge. Awesome. Um, I'm gonna add
G'day.
the. I'll add the Badger. Haven't chatted to you for a while, Merrick. So good to see you,
Yeah.
bro.
Same here. I haven't seen Merrick since we had a little bit of I think it was Indian, I think we had, or maybe Thai. I can't remember.
Oh shit. Um. So let's. Should we get into business here? Oh, there we go. Bodog Millionaire, tuning in from the UK.
Oh, very
Uh,
good.
Very good. Wow. All right, we're cooking here. All right, so where shall we start? We've hit an all-time high. So
Well, yeah, I'm just stoked, and I have to admit, I can't really believe that it happened at the exact same time that we hit 58K. It was almost like they aligned each other. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking the last time, I think in the USD format, I think they've reached 69,000K before at the same time we reached all time high. So the difference between Australia and America right now is like 69K down to like 61. So we've lost like $8,000 in comparison to the American dollar.
indeed, and maybe you can explain this 58K meme because it's not really obvious to everyone. Tell us about that.
Oh, people should, yeah, I'd love to. People should know about it. I'm hoping people are of the the appropriate time in the space to be able to know. But I guess Dennis Hoddle, I think his last name is, but he basically said, it went up to 58K, went back down, and then it went back up, and then went back down, and went back up. So he just went, well, it just keeps on going to 58K for some reason. And he kind of mentioned it in passing, and other people said, well, well, we'll keep on saying it's going to reach 58K, or that's our, I guess, our support or resistance level. And I don't know, people just started taking on the moniker and just saying, we're part of a gang.
There we go. And you put it in you put it in your handle, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I did. It was all, I guess it was all part of a. It was like it was some sort of stable force. I guess we were just it's we were a magnet on the price.
Well, there we go. Like the laser eyes, bro. And
Yeah,
indeed, we did not spend much time at 58K to the best of our knowledge. I mean, literally, this
that
all happened overnight.
man, that blew me away. Like for the last few weeks, it's been a slow grind from what, like 30 odd thousand up to about like 60,000 Australian or whatever, and then it's just been popping and popping and popping day after day, which I did not expect those last few days to pop so hard.
No, no, it's crazy. And you know what? So I was giving some thought to like kind of what's driving all of this, and so I thought maybe what I'll do is I'll share some of my thoughts, and then basically anyone who wants to hop in and just add their two sats, just stick your hand up and we can bring you on stage. But I mean, when we look at okay, what are the main drivers here? It's almost like we can't avoid the fact that like Wall Street is here. and these ETFs are clearly like a big source of demand. So they're like sucking up 10x sort of the daily production in supply. So I think we're creating like 900 a day, and they're looking for around 10k a day. So there's just been a steady sort of accumulation from all of the ETFs. We've got like 75% of people haven't sold in a year. So people are really sticking to their guns. I saw last week just a sign of increased bullishness. The sort of a whole consortium of associations and banking people had submitted something to the SEC saying, essentially, hey, we want the rules to change so that we could custody Bitcoin, because they're getting FOMO and they're a bit upset that I guess Coinbase is getting all the action, and so it's just so incredible to see how quickly the narrative has shifted from it's used by criminals, it's this fringe libertarian cypherpunk movement, to early adopters, and now and then sort of degenerate leveraged hedge funds and crypto bros, and now we're like, the suits are here, and there are trade-offs associated with that. But yeah, I'm just absolutely blown away at how quickly we've gone, especially over I think this February, if it closes sort of at these levels, it'll be the biggest month on record. I might be wrong there, but I think I saw something like that today. So yeah, I'm crazy bullish.
Yeah, I got to admit, I when people were talking about ETFs, I thought, yeah, here we go. Oh, ETF talk again. I heard this like in 2021. I heard people talking about this in 2018. I was thinking, nah, it's not going to happen. Every single time they post that sort of stuff, they reject it. I thought it's not going to happen, and then suddenly they're all getting passed. I'm like, what the hell? But I have to admit, the bullish drive right now, I do think it's part and parcel with, yes, there's no doubt that the particular institutions seem to be collecting what they need to be able to create their ETFs. But I think there might also be a little bit of pleb fear as well, thinking, shit, I think this is our last chance. We have to get in before the ETF starts scooping it all up. I think there's a little bit of that going on too, but it has certainly caught me by surprise. I knew we would be going up, but I didn't think it'd quite be going up this quick, this soon. Maybe last time it pumped maybe about 6 months after the halving, I believe. And so doing it before the halving just seems a little bit early.
Well, yeah, exactly. So there's a couple things there. The one is, you're right about that. I mean, I saw the last halving, it was at about 6.5 US. And if you think sort of 54 days out from the halving, the price was 6.5K. So in other words, it did more than a 10x subsequently. So many people say, yeah, the bull market hadn't actually even started 55 days before the halving, but here we are, sort of knocking on all-time highs in the US, and it's quite conceivable that the bull market hasn't even begun, which is even wilder. The other thing, Swala, that I said is wild is there's more and more, like compared to say 4 years ago, we've got nation states that I think are now looking at it, because since Russia's reserves were confiscated, it's become quite obvious that the US will weaponize their financial system, and so there might well be some nation states, particularly the petrodollar crowd like Saudi and that sort of thing, Qatar, who essentially are basically have oil on tap, and they can just trade their USD for Bitcoin, or they can just print their own bloody fiat for whatever it is worth. But it's quite obvious to me that there's going to be, I think, nation state adoption from those who are, let's say, on the other side of the US. Let's say, people who might be like not necessarily on favorable terms. So I also think
like
geopolitically things are very different. Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure that's happening. And then the plebs, I think some plebs are in, but retail levels are still nowhere near what they were. Like about a week ago, Coinbase's volume was like 85% below the peak, which was like April 21. So, most retail folks are still sleeping. The Coinbase and Kraken's websites crashed apparently yesterday or
How
overnight.
funny is that? How funny is that? I got to admit, I don't
Yeah.
like the official real bull run really kind of hasn't really kicked off. I agree that the so-called retail has not turned up because it just does not look obvious on the field. But the bull run did start when Yellow decided that the prophecy would take place, and he was pretty much correct. You can see it when you look at the chart. Yellow did start the bull run. There's no doubt about it.
No, that's always the clear marker. I think I had a chat with Checkmate a little while ago, and he was saying like it really was around October when you can see things really picking up from his perspective, like an on-chain perspective. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean it's quite funny. I mean, I don't know. Have you had people reach out to you asking you like, "Hey man, how's your trade going?" and all that? Because I literally got a message I'm in the car right now, and as mate was like, "Have you got a boner?" I was like, "Yeah, a massive green one."
A massive green one. Nice. You probably should see your doctor about that.
But yeah, are people reaching out?
I have to be honest.
Like,
No,
what's the
I have to be honest. Absolutely nobody. Nobody has reached
No.
out at all.
There's your sign, dude. That's for me the signal, because for whatever reason nobody wanted to listen over the last couple of years, and now I think I mean I remember I put this out there on Twitter, but it was like I remember the last it was close to the top, and a friend of mine's grandmother was going to now ape in, and I was like, holy shit, that's really when you've got some lady knocking on 80 who suddenly wants to pile in. That's when I really feel like she's looking at it like the pokies, you know what I
Shit,
mean?
that's
So
dangerous, isn't it?
yeah, so that was the sign. So like I don't think anyone's here yet. Nobody really cares, but yeah, I think when we sort of like hit the 100K mark, it'll be really undeniable, and I think the people will start coming out of the woodwork, and so I'd like, explain to me this. But then the reality is they're not going to be, the chances of them becoming a whole coiner are, diminishingly small over time.
It's be horrific right now. But I gotta say, like, I know there might be some people who are not from Australia around here, but we're knocking on our own $100,000 right now. Like I just checked it before, it's 97,400 just for the record for this recording, and maybe people obviously don't attribute that to be a success, because you got to look to the US dollar, and the US dollar has only just cracked like $60,000. But in terms of Australians, they're gonna, I reckon, if it cracks 100 in the next few days, it will go on the news. Someone will go, the Australian dollar has now reached it's now $100,000 Bitcoin. I'm like, that's a reportable sort of story, and that will get out there somehow.
Oh, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. The sad part is they're not going to talk to people who've been in this space for ages.
Oh yeah, no.
Who are actually Bitcoin. They're going to talk
Shitcoiners.
to shitcoiners, and
they're going to speak to that Polstra guy from that website who they rate all the coins. I think the guy's got blonde hair on one side and the rest is all shaved and stuff. They're gonna ask him. I can tell you that right now.
Oh no, fuck that guy. No, I've actually interviewed him, and I've total phony. Rich as all hell, but like not a nice person. But it's funny because I looked at an article on news.com.au, and the experts, the so-called experts, there's one guy from the De Vere group. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why are you talking to these people? But yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I see that the honey badger's there. Hey,
Yes, please
welcome,
speak.
G.
Please speak. Come on, Honey Badger.
Honey badger, unmute yourself and tell us what your thoughts are, brother.
I think he's walking away making a cup of coffee. Well, I think we need either, let's get Bodog or Average Joe or Fiat Pier, Fontoshi.
There we go. Yeah, I mean,
Anyone. This is open mic, so anyone can come up and just tell us what their story is. If your grandmother has texted you and saying, "What is this Bitcoin stuff?" I want to hear it because I'm interested in these little tiny micro stories. So please request.
hey, do you know what I'll say? Like in the interim, while somebody joins, basically, there are some people. I see Average Joe's keen to chat. Sweet, I'll add you, bro. There are some people who bought at the top, and they got it, and they understood Bitcoin, and they were like, "Fuck yeah, I'm going all in," and then had to endure like 3 years of hell, man, and it's not cool to basically see your portfolio in the red for 3 years, and to have potentially your spouse kind of look at you and go, "What the hell have you done with our future?" And so now all of those people are in the green. Pretty much everyone is in the green now. And I heard a story last night at a meetup, which was like the husband was like, "Oh, thank God, I'm like actually can breathe now
Yeah.
because I was."
But, I mean,
they're not necessarily believers.
all you really need to do is just make one extra purchase about $10,000 below it, and then suddenly you're in the green much earlier. This is the thing about averaging down. And I think people need to learn about averaging down. If you're bought at $90,000 and then you bought 70,000 and then you bought at 50,000, well, by the time you hit 70, you're in the green, or 65, you're in the green.
Yeah.
It just works out that way because if you're bought at 90 and let's say you bought 0.01, by the time you hit 50, you're gonna buy like 0.15. The fraction grows for the same amount of dollars, and so averaging down, man, everyone needs to learn about averaging down real fast. It's the only way. The harder you fall is the better you climb.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, and that's where the dollar cost averaging is particularly powerful. Yeah, we can have a debate about that shortly, but let's hear from Average
Yep.
Joe. What's happening?
Ooh, how's it going? Mainstream's already started in Australia. You had ABC's Business Editor and Channel 9's, which happen to be father and son. They were on last night doing it. And Sky News this afternoon had their editor, Ross Greenwood, doing it. And like we said, the people that they get the interviews for, the Sky News one this afternoon was one of the people from SwiftX, which I think's horseshit.
Oh, Dale's gonna love that. That's his favorite exchange.
Yeah. And so he was on that, and then that other one, the peanut that you were talking about from Finder, is that Shabesta, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's who I was trying to talk about. I can't. Yeah, I said Polstra, but yes, Sebesta is probably about right.
Yeah. So look, it's already started on the mainstream, but yeah, I think they're just doing it because they have to, because it's made a move. But I'm not seeing any retail buzz like you, Swala. No messages or anything coming through. It's just all quiet on the Western Front.
My ears.
I enjoy that.
My ears always prick up when the 7 o'clock project puts it on because their reporting is always so completely inaccurate, and it's over dramatic, but that catches the eyes for some reason because all the lefties are watching that.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll chime in here because what's funny is once you've worked in shitcoin media, you actually understand how it all happens. So I can guarantee you that all of these shitcoin casinos have PR people, literally on like either in house or they've got like agencies they work with, and Shabista has his own PR person, and they'll just reach out and be like, "Hey, it's a new all-time high. Do you want to interview Fred?" And that's how these people get on TV. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I personally just chosen to focus more on why Bitcoin, promoting Bitcoin, and just not give too much oxygen to all the shitcoinery. But I think those fellas are going to be back with a vengeance, and they sort of affinity scamming, leveraging off of Bitcoin's success and I guess recognition in global capital markets, and now they'll use that to sort of promote Mickey Mouse token or whatever the hell is next.
Well, for many years now, I've thought from the hardened Bitcoin area, we don't really have a lot of faces in Australia which will stand up. Because most of us kind of have our sort of our NIMs and stuff like that. There's no one like there are people who probably can talk really, really good, but we're all hidden behind NIMs. So you won't see too many of us jumping on Nine News for a 2 minute stint to talk about how Bitcoin's going to completely gobble up everything they've ever invested. They just won't bring you on.
Yeah, I think my as someone who's trying to do something like public podcasting, all that sort of shit, my plan is to try and get in front of that sort of media over time. But it's a kind of pay to play model. Like I can't just reach out randomly. I can, but it'll be pretty much ignored. So it's got to come through some sort of accredited channel, like a PR agency. They'll be like, oh, I've got a relationship with Tiffany, and now she's representing Dale, and Dale's a podcaster, and he's a Bitcoiner. Okay,
Is
cool.
that how it works?
Do you know what I mean?
It only works that way, does it?
Yeah, and I looked at the article today, and I was thinking, should I reach out to this dude and say, hey, would you like some commentary? Like, this is what I do, this is what I've been studying, and like I've done thousands of hours, but yeah, there's no way to like slide into the guy's DMs, and then he's quoting like 4 different shitcoin people. So yeah, it is kind of what it is.
Well, I got to admit that I've called up 3AW before and just dumped them a whole mine load of hard truths before. So that's one fun way I like to go on the media.
Wouldn't have picked you to be one to listen to the over 50, Swala.
Well, they who knows whether or not they actually bother to listen, but yeah. Still, you can get on there. You can pretend that you're talking about something honest and just go on there and just dump the truth right in their face.
I see young Dunworth is in the house. Do you wanna swing on down, Mr. Dunworth? Sorry, Fontoshi, keep going.
Yeah, I want to know if Honey Badger's been to make any coffee or if he's just taking a dump. What's going on? Go ahead, Fontoshi.
I just want to make a few comments. I think it's a pretty interesting time we're in. Heading a little bit further back in the conversation about the price that you're talking about. I find it really interesting that there's psychological barriers in America. And while they're getting hung up on like 59K or like whatever it is, that's just pushing over another round number, we've already pushed through that here. So I'm kind of curious to see like, once we break through 100 and they're still debating things at like 70 something, whether there's this ability for like smaller markets to kind of get excited because the barrier's already been broken through with the conversion rates. I'm also super happy that like Bitcoin is managing to protect my money against debasement of the Australian dollar, which I kind of envisaged when I first bought it, but like with everything else that's happened, it's kind of, I feel quite vindicated at the moment. Like I'm one of those guys you were describing who came in like 21 and just like dumped a fuck ton at the top, and then has spent like 3 years just DCAing down. And I've got my with some bigger purchases right at the bottom of the market, I've actually managed to get my kind of cost basis to a respectable level, and it's a hard thing to like watch for 3 years as you're like not sure whether you're a fucking crazy person or whether you kind of can understand something that other people don't understand yet. And I think it takes someone who's like open-minded to the fact they could be horribly wrong, or someone incredibly stubborn. But either way, it's like we were talking about the people like on the radio and the talking heads they get in, and they're all like idiot shitcoiners, or just I don't give a shit about those people anymore. I also don't give a shit about anyone who isn't in Bitcoin. If they don't want to be, like, I probably forged, I would say, one hardcore Bitcoiner this cycle, and that guy is like, he did it himself. Like, I didn't have to do that much to like get him involved. I kind of like gave him the basics, and he was off kind of doing BTC sessions, tutorials by himself, and doing research by himself. And it's really hard to like get someone into it if they don't already have something inside them that's curious about the world. Like, this guy was already skeptical, and I think the last few years, more and more people are skeptical of all the bullshit that's going on around us and the risks that are like on the edge for so many of us, like programmable, surveillable money from central banks, you know, mandates that have now, in retrospect, been found as unlawful. I don't really think there's some like evil cabal or something sinister going on. I just think that the incentives that fiat creates is so misaligned that it creates the illusion of something larger and kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but also is a bit of a rant to say that this is like, I feel so lucky to have been able to like find Bitcoin at the right time and be here like on this fucking ride with all you maniacs, because it's just it's insane, because you look at the people who are like missing this and you think they're experts. Like, you look at some people and you think, why don't you understand this? Like, how do you understand history and not get Bitcoin? How do you understand economics and not get Bitcoin? How do you understand just like warfare or like anything, these base things that make humanity up and have made up humanity for hundreds and thousands of years? And they're experts in these things and they still don't get it. And I'm like, I'm just a shitter. Like, I'm a nobody. I'm like a middle class dude, and I'm sitting here and I understand it. And I'm just so confused about why more people don't get it, especially these talking heads. I was so surprised when Alan Kohler came out on the ABC a couple of days ago, whenever it was, and he actually explained the halving properly and got dates correct and explained how things work in a concise manner. And I was like, that's wild. This is the ABC, like, this is old boomer dude on the ABC, and he's explaining Bitcoin to everyone. Anyway, I'll shut up now, but I just wanted to say thanks for fucking being around, all you guys, because yeah, it's an honor to like tread this path with you all.
Awesome, fantastic. That was rad, bro. And you know what? Like, I can totally, as someone who went down the path of being really angry about, surveillance, CBDCs, look at what's happening around the world. I think it's nice. I've just found that by focusing on Bitcoin personally and kind of ignoring the negativity to an extent and having hope, it just fills your life with so much more joy. And so keep kind of just kind of be as positive as one can in this crazy world. We're in this very strange time in history, and we're very blessed to have found Bitcoin and spent the time on it. And kudos to you, brother. Mr. Dunworth, welcome to the stage.
But-
Come and give us some thoughts, some
Yo,
wacky. Yo,
yeah,
yo.
what's happening? Yeah, no, Nully, what a shitstorm this is. How good is it? I mean, yeah,
Oh,
it's
wait.
mad. It's I don't know, it just feels like a long time coming, but I don't even know. I can't even kind of wrap my head around what happens after after the halving. It's really hard to think about logically without just
It's going to
getting
pump
into like,
harder. It'll
dude,
pump harder and harder
yeah,
and harder. No, but
dude, yeah.
it probably may end up having a bit of a downer soon, like a 30% down, and then it'll go hard again.
Yeah, that usually is sort of a ticket. So you usually get that, that whack in the face when you think things are good. So yeah, any minute now we should be we should get it. But no, there's just too many people buying. Like, there's no coins left. Like, that's literally, there's just the only way to put it. There's not really any coins left anywhere. And it's like, well, fuck. There's actually no coins left, and there's actually the demand is here. Like, you think this used to all be kind of, imaginary stuff, but now it's literally, there's people that are trying to buy 10,000 coins a day on behalf of other people, and there's just 900 coins a day, and that's not changing like at all. It's only
My,
getting smaller.
my question is there actually any coins in Coinbase at all? Because everyone's got zero balances.
Oh man, yeah, dude, I would not want to be over in their server room or whatever at the moment. That would be an absolute shit fight. Yeah, so long as no one loses any money, that's the main thing. But geez, imagine logging in and seeing zero balances. You'd have a heart attack. I would not be surprised if
Well,
someone like would have like a heart murmur or
see,
something
the
like
thing
that.
is, when I log
Yeah.
in, I have a $0 balance anyway.
Oh, I don't even know my password. So, yeah,
So, I mean,
just
it's pretty much all withdrawn. So it's like I've got no money in there anyway.
oh, well, then you're good. Don't worry about it. Totally fine. Yeah. So what happens tonight? Yesterday there was 9,000 coins bought or whatever, with 900 coins issued. So what happens tonight after 10,000 coins are trying to be bought?
Well, maybe you
You're-
can clue us in, yeah. Sorry, man. Like, Mike, you obviously were involved in a business that was involved in, like, remittances
Yeah.
and all sorts of stuff, and you worked with OTC desks.
Yep.
From what I understand.
Yep.
Like, how does that actually work? Because I've heard that they're contacting these OTC desks or contacting like OGs
Yeah.
and saying, "Hey, you got some corn." Now, I don't know if that's
No,
true.
you're
Like,
basically
maybe
just
you could just
contacting it.
help us
Yeah,
fill
yeah,
us
yeah.
in.
No, it's pretty much true, but it's not. It's not so much like that. It's not like they're bugging people on Twitter or something and saying, "Hey." It's just like there's a lot of people out there that have got big stacks or whatever, and sometimes they express, "Hey, keep me updated if the price starts getting to this mark. That's what I'm looking to sell." Or they might be an OG mining company, or they might be a trading desk themselves, or a large fund manager that's been invested for a long time. But yeah, no, the action would be crazy right now. And what they'd be doing is you've got pretty much these exchanges where, people are buying and selling on the exchange. And then you've got people that are saying, hey, those limits aren't big enough for me. I want to do a 100K order. What can you do for me? And they'll have a number to call or an email intro or a telegram or something like that. And then they'll start basically talking about, well, we can do, I think the minimum order would probably be, it goes up in size basically on OTC Desk based on what the market's doing. So if the market's in a really, really busy time, which it would be right now, the minimum would go up so that they'd be dealing with like 500K orders or, $5 million orders, whatever it is. They'd have some minimum threshold that makes it worth their time. And so now they're going to go around to all the other fund managers and say, right, is anyone selling today? And lots of people would go to Coinbase, and then Coinbase is going to try and find some of their sellers that they know. And it's basically a whole bunch of OTC desks that are going to be shuffling around. But the problem is there's going to only be one direction. So like everyone's trying to buy right now. So everyone's going to be looking around trying to source liquidity, and there's probably going to be pretty thin liquidity. I was thinking that these guys are going to have to get on a schedule with this stuff, like airlines do with, oil contracts or whatever when they're buying barrels of oil. You're going to have like the ETFs are going to have to find some way to guarantee their supply is going to be met. That just feels like a whole interesting conversation in itself. So yeah, you'd have a whole bunch of trading desks clipped onto each of the exchanges and brokerage services, and they'd basically be there, sort of basically trying to take take orders that are large that won't fill on an exchange. Or let's say you've got a thin order book. Let's say I wanted to buy 100 bitcoins right now on, say, Independent Reserve or wherever in Australia. Obviously, they're not going to have that liquidity, so the price is going to go to like $700 million a coin or something. Whatever, like it's going to push the price up because it's thinner. So what people do is go to these OTC desks to make sure that the price they get is much more close and better execution and less slippage. Yeah, but it would be a mayhem over
Okay.
there. It would be absolutely insane. I'd be really interested to see what it looks like at the moment. But I can imagine it'd just be buy side only. Everyone's trying to find coins, and everyone's running out of coins.
My God, it's absolutely wild. It's what you described when you chatted on my pod, which was like, it's like a
Yeah,
pipe that's sort of you're trying to get as much all this volume, but it's like the pipe is kind of getting narrower, and then which at the halving,
yep,
it's starting to get cut in half,
yeah,
and now the pipe's even kind of half the width, and now you're trying to just
yeah. And when the pipe
push it
gets
through it.
smaller in physics, if you've got a pipe, let's say I've got a 50-centimeter diameter pipe, and I've got water flowing through it. If I shrunk that magically instantly to 25 centimeters instead of being 50, the speed of the water going through it doubles. So it's sort of like, basically, it's just like, it feels like rocket ship land at the moment. But that's what Bitcoin does. It always mismanages your expectations, or it always surprises you. So I feel like
Hey,
anything's still possible.
can I just say that I could hear it over the actual microphone just then when Dal opened up his mic. He had another green boner again. And then he started talking about tightening up the pipes and increasing the flow. I tell you what, that was a little bit of sexual innuendo going right there.
Yeah,
But
Dale, you thought.
I invited your brother to come along tonight. I'm not 100% sure what he's doing, if he's just having dinner or something. But we're due for another massive price prediction, which I know he loves to give out. But I think you've already dropped
Pete?
one. Yeah,
Pete does?
yeah, but you already dropped another price prediction just there. It's like 700 billion or something like that.
No. That's what would happen. No, here's my thing. Oh, okay. You know what I've been doing this afternoon? Okay.
What's that?
Okay, let's think about this. Is just going to sound stupid, but hear me out for 1 second. Let's imagine the world's global debt, like every debt dollar in the world. The US has got 34 trillion of them or whatever, right? Let's call that the global debt, and it's 1 unit. We're going to say it's $64 trillion total. So out of every country, everyone knows everyone. And then basically we say, all right, 64 units total. Right. What we're going to do is say $1 trillion is 1,000 Bitcoins. And we can get every country leader, treasury team, or military to create a public key. And then that's the country's public key. And however much debt you've got, let's say the US would have 34 units of debt, which means 34 trillion. Basically, they need 34,000 Bitcoins to pay off their debt. And then every country does that. And then we all roll over onto a Bitcoin standard. And then Bitcoin will be worth $1 billion per coin. Because it'd be a fixed price, basically, so everyone would roll into that. How cool would that be?
I've thought about this
hold
idea of
on.
paying off the debt, and it's physically impossible.
No,
So I have no
hold on,
idea
hear
how
me
it's
out.
worked.
Well, hear me out. So everyone's got a time locked address. So if everyone agrees on it, then it's cool. We need to raise $64,000 worth of 64,000 Bitcoins. And then, okay, it's like, how do they make money then? Because it basically takes away the money printer. And then what you can do is like Iran's done, which seems like an absolutely brilliant idea, where they've gone, all right, everyone can't mine Bitcoins. If you are mining Bitcoins, that's fine as long as we're the first buyer. So basically the Iranian central bank, I think it is, they basically, you have to sell your coins to them. And Iran's got like 3 to 5% of the hash rate. So they're basically DCAing every day 3.3 to 5% of whatever the new coins minted are. That's a mad strategy. Like if you're on a Bitcoin standard, like if you think of us as like a video game, like Earth and humans, then that seems like a really good way to acquire this precious commodity in the video game. Anyway.
I think that's a good point. I'll tell you where I would say it falls short. Just it's the fact that people will never agree to it. Like nation states are always going to be competitive amongst each other, and the moment, it's the countries who are kind of out of favor or potentially out of favor with the US, or we can call it like the US-led global alliance, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. And then, so that they've got all the incentives to adopt Bitcoin, the North Koreas, Iran, and those kind of folks. But to get everyone kind of unanimously agreeing to a single
Yeah,
sort of
obviously.
global currency,
It'd be
like
extremely
unfortunately,
challenging.
it's a great idea.
But you
but
know
the
what's going to
people
happen
are the
next, right?
problem.
What's going to happen next? All the central banks are going to print money, and they're all going to be stockpiling Bitcoin. Like, that's probably, if it's not already happening, that would be like, it's a race to do that, basically, which seems so fascinating to think about, unrelated to the roll onto Bitcoin standard conversation that I was talking about before. Just like, if you think about it, they're literally going to be just going printing, like, because it's like a precious metal that they can mine forever. Like, if you think like, oh, we've got iron ore to mine, okay, well, we've got to build equipment and stuff. They can mine as much coins as they want with a money printing machine. That's awesome. Like, if I had one, I would have done that. That'd be sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only thing that I'm curious about that sort of stuff is like, with all their budgeting and stuff like that, they would need to go out there and write up their budget and say, oh, we're going to allocate this percentage to go out there and do it a fake data center or something like that. I don't know how many of them will actually come out and sort of admit that to their public in their in their yearly budgets.
I
What
don't
do you
think
think?
any of them would.
Well, I mean, we like Iran's already come out and said, yeah, we've got a plan, blah 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 blah. But I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't hear that from France. I wouldn't. You wouldn't. Well, you might hear it from Germany. I don't know, but they would need to write it up, and they need to they need to give it a name and sign it as a
Well, I
bill
think
about to it, wouldn't they?
it'd basically have to be like a world agreement between like the people and the people of the past or whatever. It would be quite a big thing. Like, obviously it'd be astronomically monumental to do something like that. Yeah, but until then, keep pumping the bags.
Personally, I've always been the type of person who prefers the people like us to go out there and get it all first. I really want the government to get it last.
So I'm sure they are I think they've already got heaps, obviously, from different acquisitions over the years.
See, I
And they're
want
probably all mining already anyway. Like,
I want I
you
want
see,
I want Fontoshi to have more Bitcoin than the Australian government.
there you go. Get it, Fontoshi.
So, can I throw a cat amongst the pigeons? A new sort of semi-detour, but kind of as the sort of price rises and we start having these sleepless nights and we start dreaming about the future and kind of envisioning the kind of world that we want to see, because I'm of the belief that if you've got a long enough time horizon, Bitcoiners are going to be able to shape the world that we want to
Yeah.
see. But we also don't want to sell our corn. And so, there are these sort of two competing ideas that I just can't get my head around, which I prefer, and I'd love to get people's opinion. So the one is like, we wait until the products are there so that we can all just chuck up, and the price needs to be obviously there too, whereby we can dump our corn with a reliable third party in a multi-sig that we can control to an extent, where we can see it on the blockchain, and then we can withdraw whatever amount to fund our day-to-day lives, and we can do that in perpetuity. And like right now, the products are there, but they're just like too expensive, and you need too much corn. The other alternative, of course, is saying, okay, once my stack gets to a certain size, I can go, all right, based on the average compounded growth over the last while, let me forecast my stack and say, if I were to draw down my living expenses for 4 years, let's say I sell 4 years worth of expenses, and I let the balance ride, and then I do that again and again, and it's like sort of lather, rinse, repeat, as it were. Like, I don't know what you guys think about that. The one's going to be triggering like CGT. The other one's like you got interest rates, and like how are you going to actually fund those, or is it interest only at the end of it? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'd love to get some thoughts there, because to me that's the goal here. Like, I don't really, like, we're just getting started. Like, this is sort of You know, I'm looking 10x from here before I start sort of taking chips off the
You want to
table.
know what my plan is? I'll
Right,
give you
go
a
for
very
it.
detailed plan. I actually don't even know. That's my plan.
Okay,
You want? I'll
that's
tell you what I
compelling.
reckon. I'll tell you what I reckon is going to happen. You're going to want less. So right now, you sort of think, "Oh my God, this could do this. This could do that. This could solve this problem." And I reckon you're going to want way less. Not in that like Larry Fink way, or World Economic Forum way, where they're like, "You'll have nothing and you'll love it." But like, you'll just want like way less. You'll have a much bigger focus, like a sharper mind. I'm talking like the next 10 years of Bitcoin, like, will sharpen your mind and stuff. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen to us from just looking at this orb, for lack of a better term, that is Bitcoin. We're all going to just realize, like, oh my God, we were chasing such purposeless stuff. And I might just be treating this like a therapy session right now, to be honest, because it feels like that was the case to me. I was like, dude, like, you chase a lot of, like, let's say startups, right? Here's something I've learned is like everyone wants to make a mad startup or do something really kind of cool. Not everyone, people that have that sort of that push, they're trying to do that. They want to make an impact or something. It's like we're all like born with a body. Like that's the startup. That's the startup we all should be playing really, really well. And it's kind of like I've been distracted that I didn't know that. So I reckon that's what heaps of people are gonna. I feel like the more Bitcoin you look at, the more kind of focus, the more purpose, the more you slow down. Like rushing, how shit is rushing to do anything? Like the word rushing. Like the moment
Yeah.
you're rushing to do anything, it's like it's a scam. It's like you're running late because you fucked up. So it's like I don't know. It sounds weird, but like rushing. It's just like every time I think of like fiat and all this stuff, it just turns into like rushing, and I'm
Well,
like, nah.
time itself is a human construct. Someone bloody invents it, and they're making us all, try to move faster for it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Like, why is it? Just actually like question, like, why is it that we can now pack what would have been 5 years ago? We can put a 40-hour work week into one day for like a 5 day work week from 4 years ago or 5 years ago could be crunched into one day now, probably with the amount of assistant tools and all that kind of stuff that's happening. But like, people aren't working 4 day weeks. It's like this perpetual motion machine that won't stop. And it's kind of like the only circuit breaker that we have, I think, is Bitcoin. Like, I actually don't think there's another circuit breaker because Bitcoin's the only one that's sort of external from the system. Because you've got to have something to compare, right? Like, if everything's relative, then you always need two things to compare against one, and that would be, a fiat system and a path of, fiat happiness versus, a Bitcoin system and a Bitcoin path, and then there's you. So there's these two objects relative to yourself. But I reckon it's like whatever the opposite of asbestos is. So remember, asbestos came out, and everyone's like, "That's mad. Let's have asbestos for everything." And it's like, okay, cool. And they're like 10 years later or whatever it was, they're like, "Oh fuck, microfibers, everyone's dying. This is terrible." Bitcoin's probably going to be like that, but inverse with our like consciousness. Where at first we're kind of like, like I don't know anyone that read the white paper and was like, "Oh, that's perfect. I'm going to go apply this knowledge and go buy some." Everyone had to like get it beaten through their skull basically, or they bang their head against the wall. And so yeah, I think like when you think about that, it's like a slow shitty takeoff with a really nice kind of end trajectory, where asbestos is kind of like the opposite of that. No hate on asbestos. I just mean like in the bad examples, like obviously it's got merit somewhere, but
I'm
just
sure.
citing.
I'm sure we do hate asbestos somehow. But
Okay, I don't even know anymore.
what one of
Everyone's got a problem with everything.
one of the things that that I was sort of thinking about in relation to what you were just mentioning just now was that I don't know about most of you guys, depending on how big your stack is or something like that, but like you were talking about, getting, doing your 40-hour work, week at work, and I'm like looking at myself, just doing my work, thinking, oh yeah, I'll get paid this much by the end of the week or whatever, and then I'll check my phone, and I'm like, well, I just earned that in about 2 hours. I'm sure most of you guys are sort of in that sort of that realm where, yeah, you kind of go, oh shit, the amount of Bitcoin that I just had kind of went up the same amount as what my full day's wage was, and it's like, well, I don't know, but it's not. It's unrealized gains, but I mean, it certainly fucks with your mind. I never really thought about it until I got into this space. I never thought that I would look at a price change. Yeah, sometimes I said, oh, I just lost $10,000 today or whatever like that, and my boss turned to me and says, "Oh my god, why didn't you sell?" And I'm like, "Who cares? I'll lose $10,000 tomorrow or whatever. I don't know. Don't care." And it's weird like that. It's really it fucks with the way you perceive things too.
Yeah, another good example
Mm.
of that is like let's say you're playing or you're gambling and you start gambling higher and higher like limits. You desensitize yourself to the money. Like let's say you win $1,000 or $2,000 or something. It's kind of gets desensitized if you go back to work and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my god, I made like $2,000 winning this lucky jackpot thing, and that took me 1 second, but now I've got to
Yeah,
do like a
yeah.
whole day's work, whatever.
It's
Yeah,
exactly that. It's exactly that.
yeah, yeah,
You could be pulling 300, 400, 500 a day. But
yeah,
last night when you were up at Crown Casino or whatever, or Star
yeah,
Casino, yeah, you pulled $2,000 off the pokies, and it was like, well,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
whole fucking, it's a
yeah,
certain amount of my wage already done. It's
yeah,
like, fuck.
yeah. But it's a poison apple that though as well to be careful of, because it can what it can do, it can dilute the value of a dollar in your mind, and then working becomes really hard where you can't really think. You kind of build this arbitrary kind of relationship with money where it becomes like really hard to say, oh, I'm just going to go and work today because I'm happy to make $200 today or whatever you make in a day, but you've just won or lost $600 the night before. Like it becomes this sort of bad spiral if you're on if you're on a downswing or something, I suppose.
Well, I guess it'll make
But
you
Bitcoin,
sort
the
of,
cool thing, well, that's the thing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of like that, where it's like it can go up or down, and you're kind of battle tested. Like you've seen so much, or you're at work and you're like, but like I suppose if Bitcoin's your North Star, it's kind of like you're pretty okay with it just sort of bouncing around, I think, because you're so confident in its like end state almost.
yeah, great.
But you know what? You know what I reckon, guys. And anyone who wants to chat, hop on. Anyone's welcome. Come chat. Welcome, Bayani and hey Jen. Yeah. So I think if it's your first rodeo, it can be really exhilarating to watch your fiat value go up. And I'll just give you my experience just based on what you guys are talking about. So when I saw it kind of do what it did in the last cycle, I literally found myself drinking from the fire hose of dopamine and just lying there going, Jesus, I'm a genius. I can't believe this. I've timed it so well. I trusted my instincts. Then I start just looking at this money as this sort of weird abstract thing that's just on I got it like a stock portfolio app type thing, and I'm looking at it kind of in a very kind of these are tokens. Now they're like life tokens, as my friend at the time, Raoul Powell, said. And I was like, well, how many of these life tokens can I trade for more Bitcoin? Because I didn't feel like I'd earned them. And I was like, well, I'm actually in such a good financial position. I can afford to, say, play with 10% of my stack. Well, obviously, famous last words, fiddled around with BlockFi and Nexo, ended up losing half a Bitcoin, and I was like, just fucked. And I had to sell a whole lot of shit. I had to sell so many other stocks just to try and cover things. I was so miffed. And, at the end of the day, it was the most brutal lesson. And it was as a result of, just having this complete and utter abstraction from kind of the energy and the time it puts into actually earn that money because it had gone up so far. So it's just I think you're only battle tested if you've gone through a cycle. And now I'm 4 years down the track and I feel like, I've weathered the storm. I've done my first tour of duty, as McCormick would say, but dude, it's absolutely, yeah. When money sort of becomes just this thing on a screen, I don't know. I just feel like I don't trust myself anymore. So it's always good to try and remember the actual energy. If you were saying, so oh, I lost 10 grand today. You think about 10 grand. It's not easy to earn that. today. You know what I mean? And like, it's always good to try and keep some perspective and not get carried away, either when it's down or up.
Well, I find it actually quite fun. I mean, I said the exact same thing to my tax accountant last year. They were like, "Oh, you really shouldn't be getting involved in this sort of stuff." And I said, "Well, I don't mind losing thousands of dollars all the time." And she was like, like big face, her jaw dropped to the ground. And I went, "Don't worry about it. Don't bug me." It was. I found it rather hilarious to. I probably over dramatized it to some degree, but I knew I was going to get a big reaction, so I thought I'd just whack it straight in the face. But yeah, I don't know. I've certainly chilled out a lot. One thing I was like, back, 7 years ago, back at the GFC and stuff like that. I was sort of looking at it, when it was like $17 trillion debt over in the States, and I was thinking, I wonder how they're ever going to pay this all back. And then once I got into Bitcoin, about like a year and a half later, I went, well, actually, we don't even need to worry about that. We just everyone just moves over here, and that just goes to oblivion. It can go to like $400 trillion, and it's not going to make a difference. You don't need to worry about it anymore.
Amen. Bodog is going to be joining the stage. It's been a while since I first met Bodog. Was it Beechworth, or I think it was Murrah? So what a pleasure to welcome you here, sir.
Ladies and gents. Yeah. I just want to go back to the point Swallow was talking about. He was saying, he sometimes feels bad when, he looks at his net worth at the end of the day and feels like, bloody hell, I've just earned, a year's worth salary, etc., or whatever, in a day, and haven't really done a lot to deserve it. Anyone up here, anyone that's been in Bitcoin, you have done the work. You might not be doing physically work, get paid cash now, but you've done the work. You understand Austrian economics, game theory, prisoner's dilemma, Thayer's law, Gresham's law, history. You learned a bit of Python code. You've done the work. You've gambled everything. Maybe not gambled, but you've certainly contributed a lot of your time and understanding to bet on and to help bootstrap the next world reserve currency. So you don't have to feel like, oh, bloody hell, I've not done that much. And then as much as you try to convince people anyway, it's irrelevant. The free and open market is telling you, how productive you've been. You're establishing a base currency for people that are under dictatorships in other worlds, other countries, maybe other countries to help give them a stable currency, etc. Like you've done the work. There's no shame in it. I just want to say that.
To correctly frame my frame of mind, I was not worried about, whether or not I'd earned it. I was just thinking about, like, as I'm, doing my work, I'm thinking, why am I here when that, that thing over there just went ahead and did that? That was more the case. I wasn't necessarily worried about whether or not I earned it. So.
That is your work as well, Swallow. If anything, that's far more important work than whatever you're doing. And I don't know what you do.
Well, it's got me here in the first place too. Like, I've thought about many people who go out there and say, I go into Bitcoin, I quit my fiat job, and I went out there and I wanted to become something in Bitcoin. And they're kind of like, they're scratching around, and maybe they're all in as well, and they're spending their Bitcoin at the same time. And I don't know. I thought, what could I contribute? I thought about contributing in certain ways in the Bitcoin space, but I thought, most people say, stick with your fiat job, you do your thing, and then you just stack the Bitcoin, and you get a little bit further ahead than some people who just, like completely unleash and just jump completely 100% in.
Yeah, well, we can't all be superstar podcasters like Dale, but I think what Bitcoin needs more than anything is foot soldiers. And I myself, I fiat mine, and I just save, like, every month when I get paid, a little bit goes in. And I try to focus on my life a lot more as well. Like, just had kids. I've seen people being totally consumed by Bitcoin. I don't know if well, I won't mention any names, but I've seen people who are totally consumed by it, and it's made them physically unwell. When I've gone along to Beechworth and different bush bashers, Mara, they've been physically on. That you can see that it's actually affecting their health. So yeah, like you say, the best thing for the majority of people is to understand it, obviously enjoy it, and just free it mind.
Well, I've found myself, I did my 2 to 3 year sort of apprenticeship at the beginning, and now I pretty much think that I've reached a sort of a wall where I know roughly what I need to know in Bitcoin, and I don't really worry about it anymore. So I don't think I'm ever going to fall into that thing which you're describing about where people are just physically ill think about Bitcoin all day. I sit back and I just watch it do its thing. Memes are what I do. I just want to be laughing the whole time.
I think the idea of food and physical health is really important because if you allow it to kind of draw you down, it can be really destructive. And like if you've got a bit of extra money or you feel less conscious about money, you're more likely to go out and get the grass-fed and finished steak or the non-processed food. That whole aspect of Bitcoin and how it affects fiat food is really interesting to me. When you have more time, you can spend less time working and more time on your physical body and training or going for a walk. I love hiking. And there's a guy called Gummo. I don't know if anyone knows him, but he's like a hacker, and he actually used the power from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange back in the day to mine Bitcoin. I think he's probably more stacked than Saylor, and he continues to do work in cybersecurity because that's the work that's meaningful to him. And it's really important to find work that's meaningful to you or something to do, whether it makes money or not. Do something that's meaningful to you so you have autonomy. It's challenging. You can feel some degree of mastery over it. And I was watching Insight the other week, and there were a bunch of retired people, and it's a lot to learn there. I don't think Bitcoiners tend to put much thought into this. Like it's going to be a serious problem that's going to hit a lot of people really quickly if they don't put thought into it in advance. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what does it mean to you when you don't have to work? What are you going to do with that? And how are you going to feel good about yourself and part of a community? It's not incredibly easy to get to, and I think it's also a bit painful because people realize that maybe what they've been doing with their whole life up to that point isn't actually what they wanted to be doing. With the idea of like lending that we were talking about before, I think the best case scenario is that somehow banks enable Bitcoin to be used as collateral at a discounted rate to what the actual value of Bitcoin is at the time, that evens out the volatility of it. So, like, I don't know, the 200-week simple moving average, for example, and then taking like 20% of that and going, that's like a good loan to value ratio. Here's the cash. If you don't pay us back, we're going to take your Bitcoin. That seems fair to me. Like, I can probably, like, I mean, I don't have a house. I'd really like to own a house one day for the stability and for the fact that I hate real estate agents because they're a bunch of rent-seeking fuckwits. So if anyone here is a real estate agent, but like, I hate them, and I think it's such a fiat job. And anyway, I would really like to make that come to fruition, but I don't want to sell my stack either. So I hope that some products become available soon.
Some good thoughts there, Funtashi. And as a former real estate agent, I am extremely offended. No, not quite. I mean, I was a commercial real estate agent, so not selling faux dreams. But I love what you had to say there about, like, the thing is that if you accumulate a sufficient amount of wealth, and you got this, you're in a position whether you're borrowing against your Bitcoin, whether you sell it, doesn't matter. What do you do with your time to feed your soul? Like maybe, you like hiking, you like eating well and that sort of thing, but like what is it that you're going to do so that you feel like, a real person?
Yeah, I mean, I can't hear you. I don't know if you're talking right now, but I can't hear you talking. But I just want to. I'm lucky enough that what I do is like what I would choose to do, regardless of whether I was getting paid or not. I run a business where I make things speculatively, and people can either buy them or they can not buy them. So I'm kind of very lucky in that respect. But yeah, a lot of people aren't that lucky. So yeah, I don't see anyone talking about it in the community. Like all I hear is a lot of the time is like have fun staying poor and all this shit, and there's like a level of toxicity and for a good reason. But like yeah, I don't hear anyone saying like, hey, when I can, I'm gonna like help my neighbors or like go buy their groceries for them because they're old, or like make sure my parents are taken care of, or I want to really learn how to learn this skill that I've been wanting to learn for ages. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
totally,
don't
man.
know if Bontoshi's got kids or not. I know Dal hasn't got any kids, but I don't have that sort of freedom anymore. I got 2 kids now, so that sort of thing where I could just go out there and be completely luxurious with my time is pretty much all gobbled up. The only thing I can really do is like put them on an airplane and take them to other countries, like going to Japan or something like that, which I'm considering. So that's about as much as I can do because you got commitments. You got to take them to school. You got to feed them every day, all that sort of shit. So yeah, I don't really have the luxury of being able to just go and walk from bloody Thailand to India or anything like that. I can't do that sort of shit.
Well, that's a totally meaningful thing for you to have kids and to be able to raise them and spend time with them. I mean, that's something that most children now, because of the fiat system, don't get. They don't get time with their parents. I mean, I didn't get a lot of time with my dad. He was the only person in the family earning an income, and he had to be gone that much to be able to provide for us. And I think that you were saying before, like, it was actually about dog. You were saying, we all kind of feel somewhat, there's like a slight degree of guilt watching this number go up, right? You haven't done anything, but then you actually have spent a lot of time. And I really think
I haven't expressed guilt at all.
Yeah, well, I, to be honest, I feel that way. Like I feel like, well, there's a lot of luck that put me in this position. Let me put it that way. But I won't really put up with someone calling me lucky. That's different. There was happenstance that put me in the right place to be able to understand Bitcoin, or the right mindset or something. But yeah, you deserve what you've got and what you will have, and your children are going to benefit from it massively. I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing.
And Swallow, what makes you think I don't have a child, bro?
I think I've already asked you before.
Nah, I've got one coming. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That's new news to me.
There we go. Joining the dad club. Yeah, bro. You know what? Fantashi, what you're saying though, like big picture, I just think resonates in a big way. I think more of us need to think about what we're going to do to make, the world a better place in terms of what we can influence. Like it's, we can look at all the problems and we can look at, we can zoom out and go, God, things are chaotic and whatnot. But I was just like, I like Jordan Peterson's clean your own room type thing. Fix yourself up, get yourself sorted, and then try and influence the things you can in your life. So, personally, I've got like a Malawian dude whose dreams I want to make come true because he was just the most exceptional like housekeeper for us in South Africa. I've been stacking a little Bitcoin for him, and he's got a vision, and I want to make that happen in the next decade for him.
I want to, do some stuff in Africa, preserve some pristine wildlife reserves there. Like those are the kinds of things that I'm doing. Like I think when you've been in Bitcoin for a little while, you develop like a low time preference, and you start, you start looking at, I don't care that much about shit. Like, I don't need. I look at around people like, getting the latest X6 or, the Mercedes and all this sort of stuff, and you go like, that doesn't feed you. Like that's not going to nourish you. What will nourish you is being able to make a difference. And so, whatever it is, like, not everyone has to care about the same stuff. Some, I like pets, I like wildlife, I like old people, in terms of being able to help them, and that's what I care about. Everyone cares about something different. So I think that's what we need to think about, because, and generational wealth, because if we can avoid selling this 100 years from now, and our children's children, like, can you imagine what they're going to be able to do? Like, these are the future, like, kings and queens. These are like the the sort of billion-dollar landlords that own, like, blocks and blocks of Manhattan. Like, that's who we're stacking for now. So that's what I think about, like, and I'm just I feel really blessed to be living at this exciting time in history.
Well, thinking about the long term future. Michael, who was on here obviously before and he's ducked out, he's sent time locked Bitcoin into the future. One of the things that I want to help him with, is I want to put his private keys, into my posters, so that so the people in the future, when they go and dig it up, they go, what's this strange code on there? So that way, someone, 100 years in time can go out there and be ready to unlock those keys, which are going to be unlocked at 2140. So, I'm thinking long term. This is sort of, I'm going to try to put my mark on this whole thing, and that's something I like to do. And yeah, obviously Michael is doing something of its somewhat dimmerless thing, and I want to help him out with that sort of stuff. So,
dude, I love that. When I've spoken with him, he's like, you know what? Everything we're doing right now will be listened to, and like in the future, you can imagine, like, let's imagine like 50 years from now, our children and their children kind of like going, what was it like at this time? Like, just after, obviously we had the COVID situation that woke, I think that's when I think it crossed the sort of chasm into, like, or chasm, whatever it might be, into mainstream consciousness. And I was like, hold on, these people are just printing money out of thin air. And then there's also this sort of amazing freedom technology built in. And yeah, like, I think when we look back, all these conversations, like if they're recorded on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it will be in the future, or, all the podcasts, all the memes, all that shit, like, it's all going into sort of the record books, because this is like it's like a technological revolution. And it's
well, we're doing it right now. This is half the idea of why I sort of asked, like, do you want to go ahead and do this? Because I thought, who's gonna, I looked on YouTube before for Bitcoin all time high to see actually who was going out there and pump it. It was all fucking scammers, and so I thought, I want you and I to jump up on stage, and let's talk about an Australian all time high, because no one really takes a look at Australia the way we do. So I wanted to represent us, and let's talk about some of the crazy things that's happening, because there's been a lot of crazy stuff happening from 58K or the Coinbase shutdown, and like this extreme, like 9% days. It was like a 9% and 4% day. So I thought there's been a lot happening in the last 2 days, and if I can kind of get this, recorded down in our little chat, we got a bit of a little time capsule of how strange these last couple of days have been, and get people up on stage and getting them talking. So
totally. And you know what's so epic is that we've got the conference, the Bitcoin Alive conference next month. And like, the sentiment last year was in the toilet, and you had to sort of like, scrape people in the sense that it's like, retail average people couldn't give a shit. It's really just kind of the Bitcoiners and some freedom warriors on the on the fringe who are curious. And now it's like, you'll probably just you'll see a lot more normies, and it's price is the best signal. And so I asked the Bitcoin or Chris to come and hop on board old Lung Doge, and he's basically been ignoring the price for the last 3 years. I can't believe that's actually true, but anyway, he didn't want to break his streak. So
he says that, but I don't know how we can avoid it.
no.
Like if you're following Greg Zaj right now, he's basically doing that Forrest Gump thing where every single time the price goes up, he does the Happy New Year bloody confetti bloody meme. So I don't know how you can avoid it.
100%. Is there anyone else that has some thoughts? I've got a duck in the next 10. I'm going to go and do some Muay Thai sparring with some young kids who tend to beat me up, but it makes me feel scared and manly.
That is a good choice. We have just passed an hour, so any last people who want to come up and speak, because what you say will be a frame of what this time frame was. So yeah, put your voices ahead.
By the way, I'll also say the honey badger sends his regards. He is on a windy beach, presumably in, I won't dox his location, but it's a windy place. And
Far too windy. Far too windy. Hey, I have got to admit, one of the most amazing things about this particular all-time high for Australia is the fact that this all-time high is so close to $100,000 that it's sort of like a double celebration in a way, because not only if we do pass that all-time high, but we're only a few thousand away from that 100K, and that number is gonna daunt us when you see all those zeros at the back of the one.
Absolutely. And
that's
I'm
looking at the chart. It's going to come in days.
That will happen before the conference, and I think that's going to be an awesome marketing point for them, because I reckon, I'm pretty confident. I'd be 75% sure that we'll see in a month. We'll see over 100 Aussie. I mean, it feels like a sure-in, but
dollary dues.
Dollary dues, dollary dues. But it wouldn't be crazy to see USD, because I've been listening to some other spaces today, just sort of understanding what's happening, and oh man, it's mental. As Mike says, it's just like, there's, we were saying earlier, there's 10x demand for what's available every day that's being produced, and the interesting thing is that, and I saw this today as well. On average, 10 days a year produce all of Bitcoin's returns. So if you just happen to be out of the market for 10 days, you get a 0% return. So
that's true.
The point is, just get in, hold, and let Wall Street continue buying it at a higher price. But I don't see any takers for the last closing, moving, inspirational, high pressure word. So
well, I have to admit, I had a look at the RSI yesterday, which many people probably don't 100% know what RSI is. It's the relative strength index, and it was up about 85 to 90%. So it's at really salivating, hungry levels, which it probably needs to go back down to 70 or 60 before it goes again. That's the thing about this. It doesn't stay above 80 for that long.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of takes the stairs up and then the lift down, or something to that effect.
Yeah. I'm not seeing many takers here for the mic, so I think we might have to round it up. And I think it's been an interesting space to chat, and I'm kind of glad I did it, because I just felt like we need to capture something for Australia. Because we tend to get forgotten a little bit down under, and who knows? Maybe me and Dal might be able to fire up something in the future whenever other strange things happen. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. 100K space. Let's do that, bro.
Well, awesome. I mean, I'm hoping personally to go and jump on some sort of space when when I'm sitting beside Yellow over in El Salvador. Maybe I might put my voice on and take the mic off him or something like that.
Oh dear, hey, exciting times ahead. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Exciting times, and appreciate you all.
Have
Have
a
a
good
good night,
night.
guys.
All right. Cheers, everyone.